Hey, good morning, Roger.
Good morning.
Man, you look good. I mean, there is an extra glow coming off the top of your head. Who does your makeup? We should talk to them.
God.
Okay. That should be less funny because it's actually true. But anyway, welcome back. Roger Dykes Just Sayin, folks. This is the big show. We produce a lot of stuff here at the 18PR studios. That's a shameless plug, Roger. And then also we've got the shows that are just like, I mean, it's like going to the playground, man. We wait all week long. It's a Roger Dykes deal coming up Saturday. We're going to do it. And so here we are. I'm glad you got a grin on your face.
I'm just listening to you right along there, and
I have been.
I don't want to interrupt.
Caffeine. Does it show?
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh well, we've been sitting here talking about you, Roger. And
I hope it's been good.
The big people upstairs at 18PR, the big conference rooms and things.
Yes.
We had a big Roger Dykes meeting. And I'm sorry you weren't invited.
Well, it was upstairs and I couldn't have gone anyway.
Yeah, it's not like we have an elevator.
Right.
Oh, man. Okay, so but what we decided was that we were going to go ahead and spend a little extra cash, a little production money on your show.
Wow.
And let me show you here. This is when you decide to spend money on a show,
right?
You just don't realize what can happen. Like, for instance, certain things can happen on the show, and we'll need a sound effect, and then bada bing, bada boom. How's that? You like that?
Sounds like Clarabelle the Clown.
I can get you one on your end, too. We can install one of these in both studios.
Okay. Would you also, though, if you're going to install one over here, you'll need to provide somebody that can squeeze it to make it sound, because I can't do that.
We'll get you a hammer and you get bang on it. Oh, you can't really do that either.
No.
As will be mentioned in the intro of the show in just a moment, folks, this is what we call the teaser, the show opener. If you are a person out there, there's a couple of things that you should know that you're viewing the show. A lot of people are watching your show for the very first time, Roger, and they don't realize a lot of the things that we have been through and done on this show and the things that you have shared with us. And to that, we say, hey, they're all up there, the Roger Dykes channel. You can go back and listen to any of these, but also, we want to remind people that if you would be so kind, and this costs you nothing, but I think everybody knows that, but if you would subscribe, and they've got a thing when you subscribe that pops up and say, okay, give us your name and your email address and all, and people have gotten more than just a little bit bent about that. They'll see that and they'll go, no, I'm not giving them all that. But it is just one or two things that they ask for. And here's what I would say to you. It's more true with this operation than most any other one I know, and that we don't load you up. We're not going to try to sell you the latest diet plan or this or that or that. That email address goes into, at the most, a system that will prompt you when the next Roger Dykes episode comes up. And really, that's just about it. If you would do that for us, we would appreciate it. And it really helps when we have new subscribers because people who supposedly know what they're doing look at that and they go, look, this show's growing. This show's doing it. So it really helps us out a lot. Okay. So let's kick this off. You want to?
Sounds good to me.
All right. We'll be right back. Hello. I'm Michael Sean, and welcome to Roger Dykes Just Sayin. Roger Dykes is a teacher and counselor with a master's degree in family counseling from Texas Tech University. He is the owner of UV Blake Records and has written a book titled Non-Persons Rolling in a Normal World. And there's a few more things. Roger was born with cerebral palsy. Now a quadriplegic, he has been confined most of his life to a wheelchair. And for a while, even enjoying a career as a stand-up or sit-down comedian and after-dinner speaker. Disabled? Yes, but you forget about that pretty quickly because Roger thrives. So here is Roger Dykes.
All right. It's good to be with you, Michael. Glad you're here. Glad we're back on again. And let's see what we're going to talk about. You got the list today. I didn't get a list.
You know, Roger, the big money is in YouTube programming. Did you know that?
I hadn't noticed.
Have you been getting your checks, Roger?
Are you kidding?
Oh, man. We have such a good time with you. Roger, where to start? We are constantly lamenting behind the scenes that at first when this program came on, just as a podcast, there were things going on. You were directly in touch with the state legislature in Austin and the people that were controlling or supposedly able to make decisions in your program. The first thing I want to point out, if you're not a regular listener to this show, is Roger is not now, nor has ever been one of these, give me more money. I got to have more money. That's not really what this is about, although a budget that was devised some 40 years ago probably needs some revision, boys and girls in Austin. I mean, really? How many of you out there that are viewing this show are working on the same grocery budget that you did not only 40 years ago, but even in the last 2 or 3 years? You just don't do it. And what about your fuel bills? I mean, that has to adjust in other places. And if you are a person living on a fixed income, which Roger is very fixed at this point, he has to, or he'll get thrown off. He's not allowed to use his master's degree in family counseling from Texas Tech University. He is, in fact, carefully navigating this path that the government has laid out from him that was devised decades ago. And so that's what this show has been all about, that Roger came to me one day and he said, you know what the problem is? I don't have a platform. And you were not hinting for a show of your own. You were just lamenting that it was really hard to get people to listen to you, to understand your situation, but the situation is getting dire. And you say, well, let's just put him in a home. Let's put him in a care facility of one type or another. Well, that is an ignorant statement, and let me tell you why. Roger is capable of taking care of himself. Roger, we're talking about you like you're not here. I'm aware of that. You can jump in anywhere.
Oh, thank you.
But Roger is capable of taking care of himself to the point he's capable of living on his own, making good decisions, and helping a lot of people with a lot of things. But what he is not able to do is to put himself to bed at night, get himself out of bed, go to the restroom, have any semblance of any type of meal, or leave his wheelchair for any reason. It is a precarious position. And if a caregiver is not there on any given day, Roger is like, and I know we don't like to go here, but Roger's like sleeping in his wheelchair, which is a very dangerous, not to mention uncomfortable situation. And so the answer is, well, let's just put him in a care facility. I said a while ago that is an ignorant station, an ignorant position to be taking, because anyone who knows anything about an adult care facility knows that it would cost what, 3 times, 5 times more the amount of money to have him there. So if you're one of those people saying, well, he just lives off the government, what's he griping about? Are you kidding? What's he griping about? He is about that far from a catastrophe. And yet all they would have to do is listen to someone like Roger, and Roger's one of the few people with his disabilities that actually can talk and think clearly. And he's been on this all of his life. Listen to what he says about what could be done, but he can't get anybody to listen. And there are some relatively simple solutions. And if you want to spend a little money, great. Who's not spending a little more money? And it's true at Roger's house. But it's just so important that there is a reason why we do this show. And while Austin is ignoring him, and there again is something that Roger would not say himself, but because he's thankful. I promise you, folks, he is very thankful for the good things that he is able to have in his life. But if there is not someone who realizes that there are other people like Roger and they're out there, and that you might say the end is in sight if changes are not made, and if no one will listen because we have a regular invasion pouring over our southern border in Texas, and because we have been through a COVID crisis and coming out, hopefully, we pray, on the other side, and because of this and midterm elections, and then the end of the term elections and all coming up, they don't really want to spend the afternoon visiting with Roger because it doesn't affect them directly yet.
Well, you've summarized it very well. You're correct. And one of the issues that is apparent is that because they have not upgraded a lot of things in this program, and there's other programs that are in the same shape. That's the problem. The whole system, unfortunately, probably needs to be updated. And so their concern, no doubt, is that, well, if we do one over here, then it'll start a chain reaction, and then we're not sure we can afford the whole thing. And that's a legitimate concern on their part. However, we're now living in a world, I'm living in a world where the caregiver pay that I'm allowed to give is barely above the top that I'm able to give, is barely above minimum wage. And there's no way that you're going to get caregivers or people to take on this responsibility and job when they can make the same money or more stocking shelves at Target. And I'm not making that up. They had a sign in the window the other day when I went by there that their starting pay was a certain amount, and their starting pay was above what my top pay was. And that's the concern. That's the issue. I'm not wanting more money just to have more money to burn. I try to be as thrifty as possible with the state's money. But the fact of the matter is, we are now at a point, and it's no longer someday in the future, it's right now, that I'm not going to be able to find anybody that will want to work for what I can pay. And then one person told me, they said, well, maybe what you ought to do is just start everybody out at the top. And I went, well, that will not work because of seniority, the people at the top are going to all quit if they find out that the person who just came in yesterday gets the same pay they do.
And they spent years getting to that level of pay, and now all of a sudden it's just automatic. They don't stop and think about the fact that inflation has just rewritten the tables on all this stuff.
Right. And it's just, well, it's virtually, impossible to sell this idea of, hey, let's go work for Roger because it's a money-making proposition. Most of the people who help me and work for me and get paid are friends of mine who are doing it not because they're getting rich, because they're certainly not, but they're willing to do it because they want to see me stay out of the facilities you were talking about. So, but that doesn't change the fact that money is needed. Now, at the same time, there are many adjustments that need to be made to this program that don't include increasing the money. But I do not want to give the impression that money is not important. It is. But there's other things that they can do that would make the program work a lot better and would not change the cost of the program as such. I know a lot of things that they're concerned about. I understand it. Let me just share this with you, Michael. And I don't think we've ever discussed this on the show. But when I was in college, the government owes me this, that, or whatever. No, they do not. The government owes me nothing. I understand that what I'm getting is by the behest of a government that's willing to help the disabled. And I appreciate that very much. I've been on the other side. I know why money is not just doled out willy-nilly to anybody to ask for it.
Right, without accountability.
But I believe given the opportunity to talk to the same person I used to be on the board that handed out the money, I could convince those individuals of the need and why it needs to be upgraded simply to make it a competitive market with the non-government entities that are competing for the same people. All the health home care people that you see, the different agencies, and one that comes to mind is the one that has angels in the title. Okay,
visiting angels.
Yeah, visiting angels.
Yeah,
their starting pay is almost what I end up with. And I haven't checked lately, it may be there by now. Well, if you're wanting to do this kind of work, and there are people who do want to help and work in this field, and I'm glad there are. But when they look at the price tag difference, there's no way they're going to come work for me for what I could pay versus what they can get there, because
unless they're already wealthy, the fact is they can't live on what the state is offering to
pay.
Yeah.
And so it's just imperative. And I'm not in a panic mode. I don't want to sound that way, but I'm getting closer to it because I see the handwriting on the wall. I work within government guidelines. I have many, 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 many guidelines that I have to work through. So it's not a matter of saying, well, Roger, why don't you just do this or that, or change this or that, or pay more, or pay less, or however you'd want to word it. I don't have that choice. I'm given very limited amount of resources, which I have to make last 12 months. And if I start giving away money to this person, that person, or whatever, above and beyond what we set up, by the end of the year, some people are going to have to start coming in here and working for nothing. And I don't think that's going to work out well, since I can't get that many people interested in working for money. I don't want to run out. So I think it's important, because some people get the idea that I'm in charge and I can just do whatever I want to, and I'm just being cheap, or I'm not willing to share whatever. The other thing I would like to make a point of, and that is that the money that is allotted to me by the state of Texas to get through the year, however we do it, is never given back to me. I never see a dime of it. If money were to be left over, it would go back to Austin. It would not come to me.
And people don't realize until they start looking at the facts. And that's all you're asking the guys in Austin, to just wake up, smell the coffee, and take a look at these facts. And you tell us, you tell Roger, how's this going to work? How's this going to work? Not 6 months from now or a year from now, but next week. Right. How's this going to work? And yet somehow you manage to stay afloat. There are people that will hear me say that and go, well, gee whiz, Michael, Roger, everything is that way now, unless you are really well off. And we're going into all of this. And let's face it, while we are in the richest nation on earth, we are still suffering now. We're suffering at the gas pumps. We're suffering at the grocery stores. We're suffering, if you need to go out and buy a new shirt, look at the price tag on that stuff now. And it's just happened in the last year or so.
Well, the fact of the matter is that because you are having to pay more, all those things that you just mentioned, that's where my caregivers are. They're having to pay more. Yeah. Except I can't raise their salary.
You're not unsympathetic.
No, not at all. That. I'm doing the same thing. But the thing of it is, there's not even, let me word it this way. In this program, with the money I'm given to fund the operation, and which includes caregivers and so forth.
Yeah.
There has not been a cost of living adjustment. So you don't even get the COLA raise that you get with your Social Security when it comes out for whatever the amount is. I think last year it was like 1%. It's very small, but that was a bigger percent than I had given to me extra to buy the people, the needs and the things that I'm required to have.
Roger, in the time that we have left on this particular show, would you please talk with me a moment about the discrimination? That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Roger. This COVID thing is going to be well any day now.
Yeah, Roger, but you were this way long before that, Mike. Okay.
Would you please, let's talk about the discrimination that is apparent so constantly to you that so many of us don't really see until you pointed out. Do you realize what just happened?
Yeah.
The discrimination that is just glaring, that people just glaze over and at the state legislator level, is the fact that Roger has a strong, intelligent IQ. He has a master's degree, which we've mentioned, and he earned that. They didn't just give it to him. He went to school and earned it. And because of the fact that all of that exists, you are kept in a starvation mode, so to speak, as far as budget is concerned for your caregivers. And if you were right next to it from the same set of offices in Austin, if you were mentally challenged, if you were one of these people who just was, yeah, sure, you're disabled, but part of the reason why you're disabled is because you don't think straight. There's all kinds of politically correct ways of saying it, but you are in fact smart enough to where their budget has gone up for the exact same things. Roger, they are human beings and they need groceries and they need caregivers for almost the exact same reasons. And yet they have received those systematic raises through the years. And, you were mentioning some figures to me the other day when we were talking. Can you tell me a little bit like how it balances out what they are getting for the same thing that you need, but they won't even talk to you?
Well, for example, there is a program. I'm not going to give you the name of it, but there's a program, the state of Texas program. It falls under what used to be called MHMR. They've changed the names around, but most people that are listening probably recognize that. Mental health, mental retardation. Now, there is a program, to just give you an example, that pays, you can get a live-in caregiver. I mean, one that's here 24/7.
That's there when you need them.
That would be there. And this person, and they're paid about, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000 to $1,500 a month by the state to just be there. Now, you've got other caregivers as well, but this one is here, and you provide the place for them to live, and they live on your property.
Which you could do.
Which we could do.
Right.
Okay. So I was advised to go check that out and see why I didn't do that. I mean, it's there. Why don't you go get it, Roger? So I did. And everything fits, everything works, except to be qualified to be on that particular program that provides that particular service, your IQ cannot be above, I believe it was 75. Now, what that says is that the mentally challenged people and they need help. I'm not taking anything away from them at all.
Right.
They do need help. But in point of fact, most mentally challenged people have the physical abilities to a large extent of what the rest of the world has. They can walk, they can bathroom them so they can go to bed, they can get dressed and get undressed. What they don't understand is that somebody has to be there to basically instruct them as to what to do when, and make sure, for example, they don't wander off and get lost. Okay, so, and that's a valuable service. No, please don't think I don't understand that. But I actually need more help than they do physically, than they're required from a caregiver, and yet the caregiver pay for them. And this is no joke, and I can prove it. I won't discuss numbers on the show, but their pay is double, literally double what I'm allowed to pay. And therefore, obviously, if you have a choice for working for one of them or working for me, you're probably going to work for them.
It's discrimination, Roger.
It is a
what
form of discrimination, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it's legal discrimination, but it's discrimination. And it's based on the fact that we want the state of Texas right now, and I was told this by a person who would know, that the mentally challenged people of the state are the favored group right now, and more money is being put into their coffers to help them. I want them help. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it or need it or whatever. What I'm saying is that I need more physical help than they do. So I'm being penalized, as it were, for not being mentally challenged, which, of course, I'm glad I'm not mentally challenged. I'm not wishing that I was.
Well, I was going to say the jury might still be out on that.
We don't know for sure. But, that actually came up one time after I got my master's degree. Someone asked me if I was going to get a doctorate. And I told them, I said, let me explain to you. I got a master's degree to show that I wasn't mentally challenged, mentally retarded. I'm not going to get a doctorate to prove that I really am. Because there's no point going any further.
But he's here all week, folks.
we have proven the point we wanted to prove with the education. All right.
Hey, Roger, we're about out of time. I got to mention one thing, though. We really were remiss. Let's see. We asked them to subscribe, right? We did that. But we had the big deal, the big explosion for this show, and we didn't use it, and we're out of time. And that, of course, is the new Barbie doll. that we were talking about before we went on. There is now a Barbie doll that's in a wheelchair. And while it's fun to talk about, the real point there is that the world has changed so much since, say, 1970, when you wrote your book and that sort of thing. There's so many things that have happened where even corporate America has recognized that, hey, there's these people out there and they exist. They are among us. And let's put Barbie in a wheelchair.
Well, let me mention one other thing that most of the viewers have probably noticed. Most of the shows on TV now, the dramas, the police shows and so forth, will have a person in a wheelchair somewhere in the show.
Ironsides led the way.
No, but here's the difference, Michael, and this is important. When Ironside came out, Raymond Burr was obviously able to walk.
Yeah.
Now, if you see a disabled actor, the actor is actually disabled.
Usually, yeah.
Well,
that's norm.
And that's different now to what it used to be. And that's how far we've come. We're getting there. But having said that, that doesn't change my world, okay? Or the world of people in my situation. We're not on Hollywood level. We're not getting the millions of dollars they get for the episodes they film. I'm glad they get it. I'm not jealous. But somebody's got to look out for the people on this end.
Roger, we're out of time. We have to go. The old YouTube clock is ticking down, and we got to go now. But we're gonna get to talk about this stuff some more, and a lot more stuff. I'll tell you one thing we didn't do in this show is have a lot of the pictures and stuff from your past, which is always fun to get into. And we'll get more of that as we go along. You've been sending some stuff in, and we've got it all. So we love you, Roger. We appreciate you, little brother. And we will, as they say, live to fight another day. And
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
We appreciate all the people watching and anything they want to suggest, write, or whatever questions they've got. We'll be happy to try to answer any they've got. And if they want to help us, there's ways that they can get involved. So we appreciate that.
All right. Adios, brother.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Roger Dykes Just Sayin. If you'd like to get a message to Roger, his Facebook account is listed as Roger Dykes. Become a friend, or you can send your questions and comments to rogerdykes51@gmail.com. That's ROGERDYKES51@gmail.com. Join us next time for our next episode of Roger Dykes Just Sayin. I'm Michael Shawn. On behalf of Roger Dykes, thanks for listening.